Most people don't wake up one morning and think, "I'm bad with money." What they feel is quieter than that, heavier, harder to explain. They feel stuck, not broke, not desperate, just stuck. The bills get paid, the income is there. Life keeps moving, and yet something never quite loosens its grip. You try to be responsible, you make smarter choices than you used to. You've read the books, watched the videos, learned the rules you were never taught in school. And still, money feels like a constant background tension, not loud enough to panic, not calm enough to forget. This audiobook isn't about getting rich fast. It isn't about secret investments or clever tricks. And it isn't here to tell you that you're doing everything wrong. Because the truth is, most people who feel stuck with money aren't careless, lazy, or uninformed. They're reacting to experiences they never realized shaped them, reacting to fear they learned long before they earned their first dollar, reacting to a relationship with money that formed quietly, over years, without permission or awareness. Money decisions don't happen on spreadsheets. They happen in moments of emotion, at the end of a long day, during uncertainty, under pressure. When comfort feels safer than logic, when fear feels more urgent than patience. That's why two people can earn the same income, live in the same city, and have completely different financial lives. One feels calm, the other feels trapped. Not because one knows more, but because one relates to money differently. What you're about to hear is not a lesson in finance. It's an exploration of behavior, of psychology, and of the subtle forces that keep people circling the same financial patterns for years, sometimes decades, without understanding why. Feeling stuck with money is rarely about not having enough. It's about not feeling safe, not feeling in control, not trusting that time is on your side. And when money becomes tied to anxiety, every decision feels heavier than it should. Saving feels restrictive. Spending feels guilty. Earning more doesn't bring relief, only higher expectations. This is where most people misunderstand the problem. They try to fix their finances without first understanding their relationship with money. They chase more income when what they really need is clarity. They look for motivation when what's missing is calm. Real change doesn't begin when your bank balance changes, and it begins when your internal relationship with money shifts. Quietly, subtly, often without anyone else noticing. At some point, usually after years of effort, something finally changes for people who escape this feeling of being stuck. Not their intelligence, not their discipline, not their ambition. What changes is how they see money, how they measure progress, how they respond to uncertainty. They stop trying to force money to behave and start understanding how it actually works. Through human behavior, not formulas. This audiobook is about that shift, the one that doesn't make headlines, the one that doesn't happen overnight, the one that doesn't feel dramatic, but changes everything over time. But if you've ever wondered why progress feels slower than it should, why doing the right things hasn't brought the peace you expected, or why money still feels like a source of tension even when things are objectively fine, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken. You're just standing at the point where understanding finally matters more than effort. And that's where real movement begins. Chapter 1. Two people. Same income. Completely different financial lives. Imagine two people living in the same city. They earn nearly the same income. They face similar rent, similar groceries, similar daily costs. They have comparable education, comparable access to opportunity, and similar workloads. On paper, their financial lives should look almost identical, but they don't. One person feels steady. Money isn't exciting, but it isn't frightening either. Decisions are made without panic. There's room to think, room to wait, room to say no. The other person feels constant tension, not desperation, not crisis. just a quiet, persistent sense that money is never quite under control. No matter how much effort goes in, something always feels fragile. Same income, completely different experience. Most people assume the difference must come down to intelligence or discipline. One must be smarter, more organized, more responsible. But that explanation falls apart quickly, because the second person often works just as hard, reads the same advice, knows what they're supposed to do, and still feels stuck. The real difference isn't knowledge, it isn't effort, it isn't even income, it's perception. Money is not experienced as a number, it's experienced as a feeling. It carries emotional weight shaped long before adulthood. Long before budgets, investing, or financial plans ever entered the picture. One person experiences money as something that can be managed over time. The other experiences money as something that can disappear at any moment. Those two perceptions quietly change everything. They change how decisions feel, and they change how risk is interpreted. They change how progress is measured. When income increases, one person strengthens their foundation, they widen margins, they add buffers, they move slowly. The other person feels pressure to keep up. Lifestyle rises, expectations rise, and the sense of relief they hoped for never quite arrives. When uncertainty appears, one person pauses. They evaluate, they wait for clarity. The other feels urgency. An almost physical need to act quickly, to do something, anything, to escape discomfort. Neither reaction is right or wrong in isolation, but over time, these reactions compound. Not dramatically, quietly, year after year. This is how two people with the same income end up living in completely different financial realities. Because money doesn't reward effort alone, it responds to behavior repeated consistently under stress. And behavior under stress is shaped by history. Someone who grew up watching money create conflict may associate it with danger. Someone who lived through instability may prioritize immediate safety over long-term growth. Someone who experienced sudden loss may struggle to trust slow progress. None of these patterns appear on a balance sheet, but they show up in every decision. One person sees saving as freedom, the other sees saving as restriction. One person sees investing as a patient process, the other sees it as a constant test of self-worth. One person accepts uneven progress as normal, the other feels discouraged the moment progress doesn't feel linear. These differences are subtle, but powerful. And they explain something most people never fully understand. And income does not create peace. Alignment does. You can earn more money and feel more trapped. You can earn less and feel more in control, because the feeling of being stuck is not about how much you have. It's about how much tension exists between your money and your nervous system. When every financial decision feels heavy, progress slows. When progress feels slow, frustration grows. And frustration leads to reactive behavior. That cycle reinforces itself. This is why so many people feel like they're running in place financially. They aren't failing. They're responding to invisible pressure they've never been taught to see. Society encourages comparison through numbers, income, net worth, lifestyle. But numbers only tell part of the story. Two people can reach the same milestone and experience it completely differently. And one feels grounded. The other feels anxious, wondering how long it will last. That emotional response determines what happens next. Calm allows patience. Patience allows compounding. Compounding quietly changes lives. Anxiety demands speed. Speed increases mistakes. Mistakes reinforce the belief that money is unstable. Over time, this difference becomes enormous. Not because one person had better opportunities, but because one person learned to interact with money without fear driving every choice. This is where most people misunderstand the idea of being stuck. They think they're missing a strategy, a tactic, a breakthrough. In reality, they're missing awareness. They're focused on outcomes instead of reactions, numbers instead of patterns, results instead of relationships. The people who eventually move past this feeling don't suddenly become smarter or more motivated. They become more observant. They start noticing how money makes them feel, when decisions feel rushed, when fear enters the room, when comparison hijacks judgment, and instead of reacting, they pause. That pause changes everything, because once you see that money is not just a financial tool, but a psychological environment, you stop forcing solutions that don't address the real issue. You stop asking, "How do I make more?" and start asking, "Why does money feel this way to me?" That question opens space. Space for calmer decisions, space for consistency, space for trust in long-term progress. And this is the invisible line separating people who feel perpetually stuck from those who slowly, quietly move forward. Same income, same opportunities, completely different financial lives. And until this difference is understood, people will keep chasing numbers, while the real forces shaping their money remain unseen. Chapter 2. Why no one is bad with money. There is a sentence people say about themselves that quietly shapes their entire financial life. "I'm just bad with money." It sounds harmless, almost casual, but hidden inside that sentence is resignation. Once someone accepts that label, every decision that follows is already compromised. Mistakes feel inevitable. Progress feels temporary. Confidence erodes before discipline even has a chance to form. But here is the truth that almost no one is ever taught. No one is bad with money, not in the way they think. People are not careless by nature. They do not intentionally sabotage their future. They do not ignore logic because they lack intelligence or willpower. They react. Every financial decision you have ever made sense to you at the moment you made it, even the ones you regret now, especially the ones you regret now. Money decisions are rarely made in calm, neutral moments. They are made when you are tired, when you are under pressure, when you are anxious about the future, when you want relief more than optimization, and reactions are learned. Long before you understood interest rates, budgets, or investing, your mind was already forming associations around money. You watched how adults reacted when bills arrived. You felt the tension during arguments about finances. You absorbed fear, urgency, scarcity, or silence without anyone explaining what was happening. Money became emotional before it became logical. That emotional foundation doesn't disappear when you grow up. It becomes invisible. And invisible patterns are the hardest ones to change. This is why people can understand exactly what they should do and still do the opposite. Not because they are irrational, but because their nervous system is trying to protect them. Protection often looks like comfort, or avoidance, or urgency. What we call bad money habits are often emotional coping strategies. Spending time can be a way to feel normal, or rewarded, or relieved. Avoiding spending can be a way to feel safe, or in control, or prepared for disaster. Saving can feel empowering to one person and suffocating to another. Investing can feel exciting to some and terrifying to others, even when the math is identical. Same actions, completely different internal experiences. From the outside, it's easy to judge behavior. From the inside, behavior is usually a response to something deeper. This is why labeling yourself as bad with money is so damaging. It collapses a complex emotional system into a moral failure. And once behavior is framed as a flaw, people stop investigating it. They stop asking, why does this decision feel urgent? Why does this choice create anxiety? Why do I feel relief after spending or fear after saving? Instead, they default to self-criticism, and self-criticism shuts down awareness. People bounce between guilt and short bursts of discipline. They try strict rules. They try to motivate themselves. They try to force consistency. But force rarely lasts. What actually changes financial behavior is not more pressure. It is understanding. The moment someone realizes, I'm not bad with money, I'm reacting to something, the entire dynamic shifts. Reaction becomes observable, and what is observable can change. This doesn't mean emotions disappear. It means emotions stop being mistaken for instructions. Fear can exist without dictating action. Desire can exist without control. Uncertainty can exist without panic. This is the difference between reacting and responding. People who eventually develop calm, stable financial lives are not more disciplined in the traditional sense. They are more aware. They notice when money triggers something old. They recognize when urgency is emotional, not practical. They understand when a decision is about comfort rather than value. That awareness creates space. And space changes everything. Without space, every decision feels heavy, every choice feels risky, every outcome feels personal. With space, decisions become lighter, and they become experiments rather than verdicts on self-worth. This is why knowledge alone does not free people from feeling stuck. You can know the rules and still feel trapped if your internal relationship with money is ruled by fear or shame. Money punishes rigidity. When people believe they are bad, they become rigid. They overcorrect, they hesitate, they swing between extremes. Awareness softens those edges. It allows for patience. It allows for inconsistency without collapse. It allows progress to unfold without constant self-surveillance. Feeling stuck with money often has nothing to do with ability. It comes from carrying an invisible identity that says, I can't trust myself. That identity shapes every decision. How much risk feels acceptable, how much rest feels deserved, how long progress is allowed to take. Once that identity is questioned, something loosens. People stop trying to fix themselves. They start observing themselves. Observation leads to understanding. Understanding leads to trust. Trust creates patience. And patience is where long-term financial progress actually lives. This is why the most meaningful shift is not learning a new strategy. It is dropping the belief that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Because once that belief dissolves, money stops being a moral test. It becomes a tool again, a process, a relationship that can evolve. In the next chapter, we will go even deeper into where these reactions originate. Not from personality, not from character, but from the past experiences that quietly shape how money feels today, and why understanding that history is the key to finally moving forward without force or fear. Chapter 3. How your past quietly controls your financial present. Most people believe their money decisions are based on logic. They think they decide how to spend, save, or invest by weighing options, comparing outcomes, and choosing what makes sense. And on the surface, that feels true. But beneath every decision is something far older than logic. Memory. Not the kind you consciously recall, but the kind your body remembers. Long before you ever earned money, your brain was learning what money meant. It learned whether money brought safety or tension, whether it created calm or conflict, whether it disappeared suddenly or stayed predictable, whether it was talked about openly or avoided entirely. These early experiences didn't form opinions. They formed expectations, and expectations quietly guide behavior for decades. Someone who grew up in an environment where money was scarce may develop an internal rule that says, use it while you have it. Even when income becomes stable later in life, that rule remains active in the background. Someone who witnessed sudden financial loss may carry a constant sense that stability is fragile. No matter how well things are going, their nervous system stays alert, waiting for something to break. Someone who saw money used as a source of control or power may associate financial decisions with emotional risk, not numerical risk. None of this is conscious. That's what makes it powerful. Your past doesn't just influence how you think about money. It influences how money feels in your body, and feelings move faster than thought. This is why financial advice often fails to stick. Advice assumes a neutral starting point, but no one approaches money neutrally. They approach it with a history. That history shows up in subtle ways. It shows up when a person feels restless even after doing everything right, when saving feels restrictive instead of reassuring, when earning more increases anxiety instead of relief. From the outside, these reactions seem irrational. From the inside, they feel inevitable. Because the brain is not asking, what is the best financial decision? It is asking, what will keep me safe right now? Safety is subjective, and safety is shaped by experience. This is why two people can face the same financial situation and react completely differently. One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. One sees time, the other sees urgency. One feels grounded, the other feels pressure. The difference is not intelligence, it is history. In the past teaches the nervous system what to expect, and the nervous system responds before logic has a chance to intervene. This is especially true during uncertainty. Markets fluctuate, jobs change, unexpected expenses appear. In those moments, people don't rise to their knowledge. They fall back on their conditioning. Someone whose past taught them that instability leads to disaster may rush to regain control, even if that control comes at a long-term cost. Someone whose past taught them that patience pays off may tolerate uncertainty with less emotional friction. Again, neither response is wrong, but over time, these patterns accumulate. The person who constantly reacts to old fear exhausts themselves. The person who can remain present without panic preserves energy. Energy matters more than motivation, because long-term financial progress is not about intensity. It is about staying in the game. This is where many people misunderstand their own story. They believe they lack discipline when what they actually lack is emotional safety around money. They believe they need better habits when what they really need is awareness of the rules their past installed without permission. Once those rules are seen, they begin to loosen. For example, when someone realizes that their urgency around money is not about the present situation, but about a past moment where things fell apart, they gain distance. That distance is powerful. It allows them to ask, is this fear current or remembered? Am I responding to today or to something that happened years ago? Those questions change behavior more than any budget ever could. The past does not disappear when it is acknowledged, but it loses authority. Money stops being a trigger and becomes a signal that something emotional is present, a signal that a pattern is activating. This shift from unconscious reaction to conscious recognition is where control quietly returns. Not control in the sense of force, control in the sense of choice. Choice only exists when awareness does. Until then, the past quietly drives the present. This is why people can improve their income, their education, and their strategy, and still feel stuck. They upgraded the external pieces, but the internal framework stayed the same, and money always flows through the internal framework first. Understanding this does not mean blaming the past. It means respecting its influence. The past did what it was supposed to do. It helped you survive. But survival strategies are not always wealth strategies. What kept you safe once may now be keeping you constrained. Recognizing that is not failure. It is growth. When people finally move forward financially in a meaningful way, it is rarely because they discovered a new tactic. It is because they stopped letting old emotional rules dictate new decisions. They stopped mistaking familiarity for truth. They stopped confusing fear with wisdom. They stopped assuming that discomfort meant danger. This doesn't happen suddenly. It happens gradually as awareness replaces reaction. as curiosity replaces judgment, and as people begin to see their financial life not as a reflection of who they are, but as a reflection of what they've been through. That perspective creates compassion, and compassion creates patience. Patience allows time to work, and time, when paired with consistency, changes everything. In the next chapter, we will explore why progress often feels slower than it actually is, and how the way humans perceive time and growth quietly reinforces the feeling of being stuck, even when momentum is already building beneath the surface. Chapter 4. Why progress feels so slow. Even when you're doing things right. One of the most frustrating experiences with money is this feeling: I'm doing the right things, so why does it still feel like nothing is changing? You're more careful than you used to be. You think longer before spending. You understand more about money than you did years ago, and yet the sense of momentum you expected never quite arrives. Progress feels slow, too slow. This is where many people give up, not because they failed, but because their expectations were quietly miscalibrated. The human brain is not designed to feel slow progress as progress. It is designed to notice change that is sudden, dramatic, and emotionally intense. Money does not move that way. Money moves gradually, unevenly, often invisibly. And this mismatch between how money grows and how the brain perceives growth is one of the biggest reasons people feel stuck, even when they are not. Your mind wants feedback. It wants confirmation that effort is working. It wants reassurance that patience is justified. But financial progress rarely provides emotional feedback in the short term. Savings grow quietly. Good habits feel boring. Risk management feels like nothing is happening. In fact, when you're doing things right, life often feels less exciting. There are fewer spikes, fewer adrenaline-driven decisions, fewer emotional highs and lows, and the brain interprets that calm as stagnation. This is a dangerous misunderstanding, because calm is not stagnation. Calm is stability forming. The problem is that stability doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like winning, and it feels like less drama. And drama is what the brain is wired to notice. This is why people often feel more alive financially when they are taking reckless risks than when they are making steady progress. Risk creates sensation. Sensation feels like movement. Movement feels like progress. But sensation is not the same as improvement. True financial progress often feels emotionally flat in the beginning. You stop making big mistakes, but you also stop making big emotional bets. From the outside, nothing seems to change. From the inside, the system is quietly recalibrating. Another reason progress feels slow is because people underestimate how long compounding takes to become visible. Compounding is not linear. In the early stages, it feels almost pointless. The effort feels disproportionate to the reward. The small gains don't register emotionally. They don't change lifestyle. They don't create relief. So the brain concludes, this isn't working, but compounding doesn't reward impatience, it punishes it. The people who benefit from compounding are not the ones who are most motivated. They are the ones who can tolerate boredom. They understand that early progress is mostly structural, not experiential. They are building foundations, not fireworks. This is deeply counterintuitive. We are taught to associate progress with visible change. More money, more freedom, more comfort. But before any of that appears, there is a long phase where progress exists only as reduced risk, less fragility, more margin, more options. Those things don't feel exciting, they feel subtle. Yet they are the difference between people who eventually break free and people who keep cycling in place. Another reason progress feels slow is comparison. Even when you are doing better than before, you are still exposed to people who appear to be moving faster. Social media magnifies this distortion. You see milestones without context, results without timelines, outcomes without the invisible cost. Your brain compares your internal experience to someone else's external snapshot. And you always lose that comparison because you feel effort and uncertainty. They display certainty and success. This comparison creates pressure. Pressure creates urgency. Urgency leads to shortcuts. Shortcuts often undo months or years of careful progress. This is one of the cruelest traps in modern financial life. People abandon slow, steady improvement not because it isn't working, but because it doesn't feel like working. There is also a psychological lag that few people talk about. Your financial reality can improve before your emotional reality catches up. You can have more savings and still feel unsafe. You can have less debt and still feel tense. You can be objectively more stable and still feel behind. This is normal. Emotional calibration lags behind structural change. Your nervous system needs time to trust new patterns. If you spent years feeling financially vulnerable, it doesn't relax overnight just because the numbers improve. It waits. It watches. It looks for consistency. During that period, people often misinterpret caution as failure. They think, if I still feel anxious, something must be wrong. But anxiety doesn't disappear on command. It fades when stability proves itself over time. This is why progress feels slow. Not because nothing is happening, but because the brain requires repetition before it updates its sense of safety. The people who succeed financially in the long run understand this lag. They don't demand immediate emotional payoff from good behavior. They let time do the convincing. They accept that the early phase of doing things right feels anticlimactic. That acceptance is rare, and it is powerful. Because once you stop demanding speed from progress, you stop sabotaging it. You stop jumping between strategies. You stop reacting to short-term noise. You stop interpreting boredom as failure. You begin to measure progress differently, not by excitement, but by reduced stress, not by dramatic wins, but by fewer emergencies, not by how fast things change, but by how rarely they fall apart. This shift in measurement changes everything. Progress stops being something you chase. It becomes something you allow. Slow growth is no longer an insult. It becomes evidence that the system is working. The feeling of being stuck often comes from misunderstanding what early success looks like. It looks quiet, it looks boring, it looks unspectacular. But beneath that surface, something important is happening. Fragility is being replaced by resilience. Reactivity is being replaced by patience. Short-term thinking is being replaced by long-term alignment. These changes don't announce themselves. They reveal themselves only later, when pressure arrives and you don't collapse the way you used to. Then that is when you realize progress was happening all along. In the next chapter, we'll explore why chasing more so often intensifies this feeling of being stuck, and how redefining what progress actually means can release pressure that money alone never could. Chapter 5. Why chasing more often makes you feel more trapped. At some point, most people arrive at a quiet conclusion. If I just made more money, this tension would disappear. It sounds reasonable, logical even. More income should mean more freedom, more comfort, more room to breathe. And yet, for many people, earning more does not bring relief. It brings pressure. They reach a new level financially and expect something inside them to loosen, but instead, the weight shifts. The worry changes shape. The stakes feel higher. The margin they hoped for never quite arrives. This is one of the most confusing experiences with money. From the outside, it looks like progress. From the inside, it feels like a deeper version of the same trap. The problem is not the desire for improvement. The problem is what more is being asked to solve. And when people chase more money to escape anxiety, they often end up amplifying it. Because money does not automatically create safety. It magnifies the system it enters. If your relationship with money is tense, more money creates more tension. If your sense of self-worth is tied to income, more income raises the bar. If your peace depends on external validation, more success multiplies the pressure to maintain it. This is why many people feel freer at lower income levels than they do after leveling up. At lower levels, expectations are smaller. Comparisons feel distant. The game feels simpler. As income increases, invisible demands appear. Lifestyle expands. Social circles change. The definition of normal shifts upward. What once felt like abundance begins to feel like baseline, and the brain adapts quickly. So humans are remarkably good at adjusting expectations, but terrible at noticing when that adjustment erases satisfaction. This is known quietly, but lived loudly. A raise that once felt life-changing becomes invisible within months. A new level of comfort becomes the new minimum, and the chase resumes. More money does not end the feeling of being behind if behind is defined emotionally, not financially. Another reason chasing more feels trapping is that it narrows focus. When more becomes the solution, everything else becomes secondary. Time becomes something to trade. Health becomes negotiable. Relationships become background noise. Decisions start revolving around optimization rather than alignment. And people ask, what pays more? What advances faster? What looks better? They stop asking, what feels sustainable? What gives me margin? What lets me sleep well at night? The shift is subtle, but profound. Money begins to dictate life instead of supporting it. And when money holds that power, no amount of it feels like enough. There is also a psychological toll to chasing more that few people anticipate. More income often comes with more complexity, more decisions, more responsibility, more risk exposure. The mental load increases. Even if the numbers improve, the cognitive demand does too. People who once felt overwhelmed by scarcity now feel overwhelmed by choice. And without emotional grounding, choice becomes another source of stress. This is why people sometimes look back at earlier periods and say, I had less money, but life felt simpler. It's not nostalgia, it's observation. The simplicity came from having fewer identities tied to money. Chasing more often adds identities: provider, achiever, success story, role model. Each identity comes with expectations, and expectations create pressure. Pressure keeps the nervous system activated. An activated nervous system is not free. This is the part most advice ignores. Money is not just a resource, it is a responsibility multiplier. If you don't have a calm internal framework, more money increases the noise. This is why people who feel stuck often oscillate between ambition and exhaustion. They push harder, hoping the next milestone will finally deliver peace. When it doesn't, they feel disappointed, not just financially, but emotionally. They begin to wonder if something is wrong with them. But the issue is not effort, it is direction. Chasing more without redefining enough is like running faster on the same treadmill. Movement increases, distance does not. The people who eventually escape this trap don't stop improving. They stop equating improvement with accumulation. They shift from asking, how do I get more? To asking, what actually reduces pressure in my life? Sometimes the answer is more income, but often it is more margin. More margin in time, more margin in energy, more margin in expectations. Margin creates flexibility. Flexibility creates calm. Calm allows better decisions. This is where the idea of enough quietly enters. Enough is not a number. It is a relationship. It is the point where money supports life instead of consuming it. People who understand this still grow financially, but they grow deliberately. They don't add obligations faster than they add stability. They don't increase lifestyle faster than emotional capacity. They don't trade peace for appearances. This is why some people with high incomes feel constantly trapped, while others with less feel surprisingly free. Freedom is not about maximizing income. It is about minimizing unnecessary pressure. When people redefine progress this way, something important shifts. They stop chasing money as proof. They stop using numbers to measure worth. They stop believing the next level will finally fix an internal problem. And in that space, money begins to behave differently. Decisions become clearer. Risk becomes manageable. Growth becomes steady instead of frantic. Ironically, and this is often when financial progress accelerates. Not because they are trying harder, but because they are no longer fighting themselves. The feeling of being stuck is often fueled by the belief that more is the exit. But for many people, more is the maze. The real exit appears when money stops being the primary source of relief and becomes a tool that serves a life already grounded in clarity. In the next chapter, we'll explore the quiet internal shift that makes this possible, the moment when your relationship with money changes in a way that doesn't feel dramatic, but alters every decision that follows. Chapter 6. The quiet shift that changes everything. For most people, change is imagined as something dramatic, a breakthrough, a turning point, a moment where everything suddenly feels different. But the shift that changes a person's financial life rarely looks like that. It happens quietly. So quietly, in fact, that many people don't recognize it while it's happening. They just notice that something feels different. Money stops feeling like an enemy. Decisions stop feeling urgent. The constant internal noise begins to soften. Nothing external may have changed yet. The income might be the same. The numbers might look familiar, but the experience of money has shifted. This shift does not come from learning a new strategy. It does not come from earning more. And it does not come from finally getting it right. It comes from redefining what safety means. For a long time, most people believe safety comes from control. More savings, more certainty, more guarantees. They believe that if they can just eliminate enough risk, they'll finally feel calm. But money does not work that way. Total certainty does not exist, and chasing it creates more anxiety, not less. The quiet shift begins when someone accepts this. They stop trying to eliminate uncertainty. They start learning how to live with it. This changes everything. Because once uncertainty is no longer treated as a threat, decisions stop being driven by fear. Fear demands speed. Speed demands action. Action without clarity creates regret. Calm, on the other hand, creates space. Space allows reflection. Reflection allows alignment. And alignment allows consistency. This is the shift. The moment money stops being a measure of safety and becomes a tool for navigation. People who experience this shift don't suddenly feel fearless. They still care. They still plan. They still protect themselves, but they no longer interpret discomfort as danger. They understand that feeling uneasy does not mean something is wrong. It means something is unfamiliar. This distinction is subtle, but powerful. Before the shift, discomfort triggers reaction. After the shift, discomfort invites observation. Instead of asking, "How do I make this feeling stop?" they ask, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" This question alone changes behavior, because many money decisions are not about money at all. They're about identity. People spend to feel successful. They avoid risk to feel responsible. They chase income to feel worthy. Once these motivations become visible, they lose some of their power. Money stops being a scoreboard. It becomes a resource again. Another part of this shift is redefining progress. Before, progress was measured externally. Higher income, better lifestyle, more impressive milestones. After the shift, progress becomes internal. More patience, less anxiety, clearer priorities. This internal progress often comes before external change, and because it isn't visible, it's easy to dismiss. But it is the foundation for everything that follows. People who never experience this shift keep oscillating. They move forward, then pull back. They improve, then sabotage. They grow, then panic. Not because they are inconsistent, but because they are internally conflicted. The quiet shift resolves that conflict. It aligns behavior with values instead of emotion. Money decisions stop being about proving something. They start being about supporting a life that actually feels sustainable. This is why people who experience this shift often slow down at first. They stop chasing. They stop forcing outcomes. They stop reacting to every opportunity. From the outside, it can look like stagnation. From the inside, it feels like relief. Relief from the constant need to optimize. Relief from comparison. Relief from the belief that one wrong move will undo everything. This relief is not laziness. It is clarity. And clarity changes the quality of every decision. People begin to choose fewer things, but better ones. They say no more often. They allow time to work instead of fighting it. They stop asking, "What could I gain?" and start asking, "What could this cost me emotionally?" That question filters out many decisions that look good on paper but feel wrong in reality. This is also when money begins to feel quieter, not invisible, but calmer. It no longer dominates mental space. It no longer dictates mood. It becomes integrated into life rather than standing above it. This integration is rare, and it is the reason some people seem to handle money with ease, even when circumstances are imperfect. They are not more confident, they are more settled. They trust themselves to respond instead of react. They trust time instead of urgency. They trust process instead of pressure. This trust does not come from success. It comes from self-understanding, and once it forms, it compounds. Because calm decisions tend to be repeatable. Repeatable decisions create consistency. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum changes outcomes quietly, over time. This is why the most meaningful shift does not announce itself. It does not feel like winning. It feels like no longer fighting fear, no longer fighting uncertainty, no longer fighting the need to be ahead. When that fight ends, energy returns. Energy that was previously spent on worry becomes available for patience. Patience allows you to stay invested in your work, your strategy, your life, long enough for results to emerge. This is the difference between people who feel perpetually stuck and those who slowly move forward. Not luck, not intelligence, a quiet internal shift. One that changes how money is perceived, not how much of it exists. In the next chapter, we will explore what financial calm actually looks like in practice, and why calm, not intensity, is the true foundation of long-term wealth. Chapter 7. What financial calm actually looks like. When people hear the phrase financial calm, many imagine something unrealistic. They picture complete certainty, no risk, no anxiety, a life where money never creates discomfort. That image is misleading. Financial calm is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the absence of panic. It is not about feeling confident all the time. It is about not being emotionally hijacked when things feel unclear. Most people mistake calm for passivity. They think calm means moving slowly, avoiding risk, settling for less. In reality, calm is not the opposite of ambition. It is the opposite of desperation. Financial calm is what allows ambition to last. People who lack calm often look driven. They move fast. They act decisively. But underneath, their decisions are fueled by urgency. Urgency is exhausting. As it shortens time horizons, it narrows options. It turns every choice into a referendum on self-worth. Calm does the opposite. Calm widens perspective. It lengthens timelines. It separates decisions from identity. This is why calm people often outperform intense people over long periods. Not because they work harder, but because they don't burn themselves out. Financial calm shows up first in how someone reacts. When markets fluctuate, calm does not rush to interpret meaning. It pauses. When income changes, calm adjusts without drama. It does not inflate lifestyle overnight. It does not collapse at the first sign of uncertainty. When opportunities appear, calm evaluates fit instead of excitement. This is subtle. From the outside, calm can look like hesitation. From the inside, it feels like control. Calm is the ability to wait without anxiety. That ability is rare, and it is powerful, because money rewards people who can wait. Waiting allows compounding. Waiting allows patterns to play out. Waiting prevents decisions made solely to escape discomfort. Most financial mistakes are not made because people lack intelligence. They are made because people cannot tolerate uncertainty. They rush to resolve discomfort instead of understanding it. Calm changes that relationship. It allows someone to sit with incomplete information without feeling threatened. This is especially important in a world that constantly demands reaction. News cycles amplify fear. Social media amplifies comparison. Marketing amplifies urgency. Calm acts as a filter. It slows input before it becomes action. People with financial calm are not immune to these pressures, and they simply don't let pressure dictate behavior. Another sign of financial calm is consistency, not perfection. Consistency. Calm people do not try to optimize every decision. They choose systems that work even when motivation fluctuates. They accept that progress will be uneven. They do not interpret setbacks as personal failure. They see them as part of the process. This mindset protects them from extremes. They don't overreact to wins. They don't overcorrect after losses. They remain emotionally centered. This emotional stability creates a compounding advantage, because consistency over time matters more than brilliance in short bursts. Calm also changes how people define risk. For many, risk is associated with fear. They either avoid it entirely or chase it recklessly. Calm reframes risk as something to manage, not eliminate. And calm people ask, what is the downside? Can I recover if this goes wrong? Does this fit my life, not just my goals? They do not ask, what if this is my only chance? What if I fall behind? What if everyone else is doing it? Those questions come from anxiety, not strategy. Calm decisions are grounded in self-trust. Trust that mistakes can be absorbed. Trust that progress does not require constant acceleration. Trust that time is an ally, not an enemy. This trust is not blind. It is built slowly through experience, through staying in the game long enough to see that one decision rarely defines an entire financial life. This is why calm is closely linked to resilience. Resilience is not toughness, it is recoverable. Calm people recover faster from setbacks because they do not dramatize them. They do not attach identity to outcomes, or they do not spiral into self-blame. They assess, adjust, and continue. This creates a sense of steadiness that outsiders often mistake for luck. But it is not luck. It is emotional regulation. Another overlooked aspect of financial calm is boundaries. Calm people are comfortable saying no. They say no to opportunities that look impressive but feel misaligned. They say no to lifestyles that require constant maintenance. They say no to pressure disguised as ambition. These boundaries protect energy. Energy is a finite resource. Without energy, no financial strategy works for long. Calm preserves energy by reducing internal conflict. Decisions become simpler, not because choices disappear, but because criteria become clearer. Does this add stability? Does this increase flexibility? Does this align with how I want to live? If not, calm allows someone to walk away without regret. This is deeply countercultural. We are taught that success requires intensity, that calm is complacency, that pressure is proof of importance. But pressure without direction leads to collapse. Calm without direction can lead to stagnation. The combination of calm and clarity creates momentum that lasts. This is what financial calm actually looks like. Not excitement, not certainty, not constant growth, but steadiness. A feeling that money is no longer an adversary. A sense that decisions are choices, not emergencies. An ability to look at the future without needing to control it. This calm does not arrive suddenly, and it emerges as fear loosens its grip, as urgency fades, as trust in oneself deepens, and once calm is present, everything else becomes easier. Not because life becomes simpler, but because you are no longer fighting it. In the final chapter, we will bring these ideas together and explore what happens when money stops being something you struggle against and becomes something you can finally live with, calmly and deliberately. Chapter 8. When money stops being the enemy. For many people, money has never felt neutral. It has felt like pressure, like judgment, like something that constantly asks more of them than they feel ready to give. Even when things are objectively fine, money often remains emotionally charged. It sits in the background of daily life, quietly influencing mood, decisions, and self-worth. This is why the final shift is not about mastering money. It is about no longer fighting it. When money stops being the enemy, nothing magical happens overnight. There is no sudden surge of confidence, no dramatic sense of arrival. What changes is more subtle and more lasting. The tension softens. Money no longer feels like something that must be conquered, proven, or escaped. It becomes something that can be lived with. This shift begins when people stop framing their financial life as a personal battle. Before this point, money is often experienced as opposition. It resists efforts, it exposes mistakes, it highlights perceived inadequacy. Every setback feels personal. Every delay feels like failure. In that mindset, even progress feels fragile. Because if money is an enemy, it is always capable of turning against you. When this framing dissolves, the relationship changes. Money becomes information instead of judgment. It reflects choices, not character. Patterns, not flaws. This reframing is deeply stabilizing. It allows people to look at their financial situation without emotional distortion, not with denial, not with optimism, but with clarity. Clarity allows honesty. Honesty allows adjustment. Adjustment creates movement. This is why people who finally feel at peace with money often become more effective with it. Not because they care more, but because they care less in the right way. They stop using money to define themselves. They stop interpreting outcomes as personal verdicts. They stop demanding that money provide emotional reassurance. And once those demands disappear, money becomes easier to manage. Another important part of this final chapter is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means acknowledging reality without resistance. Resistance drains energy. When people constantly fight where they are financially, they lose the energy needed to change where they're going. Acceptance creates a stable starting point. From that point, progress no longer feels like escape. It feels like construction. This distinction matters. Escaping implies urgency. Construction implies patience. People who treat their financial life as something to escape tend to rush. They chase shortcuts. They overcorrect. They abandon plans too quickly. People who treat it as something to build move differently. They think in layers. They value durability. They allow time to do its work. When money stops being the enemy, time stops being the enemy too. Time shifts from something you race against to something you partner with. This partnership changes decision-making. Instead of asking, "How do I fix this now?" people begin asking, "What direction am I moving in?" Direction matters more than speed. Speed fluctuates. Direction compounds. This is one of the quiet truths behind long-term financial stability. People who are moving in the right direction can tolerate slow periods. The people who are uncertain about direction feel pressured by every pause. Direction provides psychological safety. Safety reduces reactivity. Reactivity is the root of most financial mistakes. When money stops being the enemy, reactivity fades. Decisions slow down, but not in a passive way. They become deliberate. Deliberate decisions tend to age well. They don't require constant monitoring. They don't demand perfect timing. They don't collapse under stress. This is also when comparison loses its grip. If money is no longer a measure of worth, other people's outcomes become less threatening. Someone else's success doesn't invalidate your progress. Someone else's pace doesn't define your timeline. This emotional independence is rare, and it is one of the most valuable assets a person can develop. Because comparison is an endless source of dissatisfaction. No matter how far you go, there is always someone ahead. Letting go of that race is not giving up. It is choosing a different game. A game measured by stability instead of status, by sustainability instead of spectacle. Another quiet change happens here. People begin to trust themselves, not because they are perfect, but because they have seen themselves adapt. They have made mistakes and recovered. They have adjusted plans without collapsing. They have learned that one decision does not define a lifetime. This trust reduces fear. Fear narrows thinking. Trust expands it. With expanded thinking, options appear. Options create flexibility. Flexibility is freedom. This is what freedom actually looks like in a financial context. Not unlimited spending, not complete certainty, but the ability to respond rather than react, to choose rather than scramble, to stay grounded even when conditions are imperfect. When money stops being the enemy, people stop needing it to validate them. They stop asking it to provide meaning. They stop expecting it to erase discomfort. Money returns to its proper role. A tool, a medium, a support system, not a judge, not a savior, not a threat. This does not mean money becomes unimportant. It means it becomes proportional, and proportional things are manageable. This is the end of the feeling of being stuck. Not because everything is resolved, but because nothing feels frozen anymore. Movement resumes. Quietly, gradually, reliably. So the person who reaches this point does not announce it. There is no visible milestone. But internally, something fundamental has changed. They are no longer fighting their financial life. They are participating in it. And participation, steady, calm, intentional, is what allows time, consistency, and alignment to finally do what they were always capable of doing. Change outcome, not dramatically, but lastingly. This is what finally changes. Not the numbers first, but the relationship. And once that relationship changes, money has a way of following, slowly, imperfectly, but in the right direction, without needing to be chased ever again. When understanding replaces struggle. Most people spend years trying to change their financial outcomes without ever questioning the relationship beneath them. They adjust strategies. They chase higher income. They promise themselves that the next level will finally bring relief. And when it doesn't, they assume the problem must be effort. This audiobook has offered a different perspective. Not that money is simple, not that progress is fast, but that the feeling of being stuck is rarely caused by a lack of intelligence, discipline, or opportunity. It is caused by misunderstanding. Misunderstanding how deeply money is connected to emotion. Misunderstanding how the past quietly shapes present behavior. Misunderstanding how progress actually unfolds in real life. Once that misunderstanding begins to dissolve, something important happens, and the pressure eases. Money no longer feels like an adversary that must be defeated. It no longer feels like proof of success or failure. It becomes information, something to work with, not fight against. This is where real movement begins, not because everything is suddenly clear, but because clarity is no longer demanded all at once. You begin to tolerate uncertainty without panic. You allow progress to be uneven without interpreting it as failure. You stop measuring your financial life by how intense it feels and start measuring it by how sustainable it is. That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. When money stops being the center of emotional tension, decisions improve naturally, not because you force them to, but because fear loosens its grip. Patience becomes possible. Consistency becomes easier. Time becomes an ally instead of an enemy. This is why people who eventually feel at peace with money often say it happened quietly. There was no single breakthrough moment, no dramatic turning point, just a gradual change in how money felt. Less urgency, less self-judgment, less pressure to prove something, and more space. Space to think, space to wait, space to choose deliberately. From that space, behavior changes without resistance. Spending becomes intentional instead of emotional. Saving becomes reassuring instead of restrictive. Risk becomes something to manage instead of fear or chase. This is not perfection. Mistakes still happen. Uncertainty still exists. Life still changes. But the internal experience is different. Money no longer dictates mood. It no longer defines worth. And it no longer feels like a test you are constantly failing. And when that happens, progress becomes steady. Not dramatic, not flashy, but real. If there is one idea worth carrying forward from everything you've heard, it is this. Feeling stuck is not a permanent condition. It is a signal that effort alone is no longer the answer. A signal that understanding matters more than acceleration. Once understanding replaces struggle, movement resumes, slowly at first, then more confidently over time. You don't need to rush this process. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You only need to continue observing, adjusting, and staying present with your relationship to money as it evolves. Because when the relationship changes, the results eventually follow. Not immediately, not perfectly, but in the right direction. And that, in the long run, is what truly changes everything.